Laurent Sweek, Michael van Turnhout, Niels van der Putten, Emil Verstringer, Mathieu van der Poel, Lars van der Haar, Pim Ronhaar, and Toon van der Bos. We are under orders in Koksijde. Watch the lights. The anticipation, we're green, let's go racing in Koksijde. A bit of an issue a little bit further down the path. Mathieu van der Poel in that rainbow jersey, trying to get a big start. The world champion, Pim Ronhaar, trying to move up in the colours of Baloise Glowy Lions. As Toon in that European Champions jersey, Thibaut Del Grosso with the white shorts on the right gets a good move up, but it's Toon from Laurent Sweek, Thibaut Del Grosso and Mathieu van der Poel through the first corner.
Looked like a big problem for Victor van der Putten on the left-hand side as we looked at it. Toon looking confident, styling it up over that one, and Laurent Sweek looks like he's meaning business, trying to get straight to the front of this one.
He is indeed. So we have a little look down through the group. There's Mathieu van der Poel. So Niels van der Putten, Mace Hendricks, Ryan Camp in that sort of olive greeny colour. Cameron Mason for Great Britain will look to try and move up if he can, getting into these first sand sections. Andrew Strohmeyer, swift dismount. Joran Visura trying to stay on the bike, but it does mean that riders who are trying to run it slightly quicker, that section, trying to come past. And fundamentally, the sand sections, there's more of them, and they come with, sort of quick succession now with the changes to the course.
They do. Like I said, it's kind of, they've gone around and found every single sand section that we've ever used in the Koksijde, various Koksijde, all problem for Laurent Sweek. They see he's now on the wrong side of the bike. He's normally a lefty, so he'd get off on the other side. There he has to swing the bike around, not confident getting on the wrong way as such for him. So bit of a problem with the ruck being so close to the barriers there. He was simply unable to get off on the preferred side.
It's Thibaut Del Grosso that is leading. Thibaut was second behind Laurent Sweek last year when we were here for the X2 Barkamas Trophy. Michael van Turnhout was third. Pim Ronhaar, Joran Visura, Elisabeth Toon van der Bos, Gianni Vermeers, Corny van Gessel, and Niels van der Putten was our top 10. There's Lars van der Haar just going through. Laurent Sweek, the Sandman, now in that World Cup Leaders jersey, said in the pre-race interview that he wanted to try and take it in Italy. And he almost felt that it was gone for this season, but he's got it. And look at the power carry. He goes left. Van der Poel's going right here. We've got the two different lines to choose here, Ian. But Van der Poel, look at the power of Van der Poel to get up towards his teammate.
Look at the speed that he's carried through that section. This is what we said before the start. That explosive power and the technique through the sand. Just no one else close to him in terms of the power and technique involved to ride that section. Not just ride that section, but almost have to slow down to make the corner at the end. It's just unbelievable.
There is just something else, something different about sand racing, isn't there?
There is it's the combination of the power and the technique combination that makes it so fun. Really good start for Vitsi Musen, has some really good results recently. Van der Putten over the top of him on one of these transition sections where riders are desperately trying to recover from that huge effort through that first sand section before they reach the next one.
So it's the two Alpecin de Koning teammates, Thibaut Del Grosso and Mathieu van der Poel, who lead. So national champ of the Netherlands with the world champion. Then it's the two Belgians, the World Cup leader, the European champion in Toon.
Toon, another rider that likes this course. The last 4 starts here have all been third place for him. He'll be looking to go kind of 1 or 2 better here today, and he's got a very, very good... It's exactly where you don't want to bobble, where you're trying to maintain and carry that speed around that corner into this next really long sand section. If you carry the speed out of here, carries into another tough left-hand turn in the sand and then into that second pit. See the riders all lined out. We're going to get a replay of Sweek riding that dune.
Beautifully done there by Laurent Sweek. Look at the technique. If you with this sort of day, these slow-mos, watch the rider's eyes. Watch the body, how the riders, the subtle movements that you have to put in to counterbalance your body weight, to keep your momentum. You can see there, Toon van der Bos, shake of the head, gets rid of the glasses in frustration.
just one of those sections. You've ridden that really, really long sand section. You're really on the limit, and then you've got a technical left turn. And Cameron Mason up inside the top 20, and Thomas Mean just behind him as well.
So at the moment, it's Thibaut Del Grosso, Mathieu van der Poel, Laurent Sweek, Toonarts at the front. Not too big of a gap to Niels van der Putter, then Victor Musen and Emil Verstringer, Mace Hendricks, Teun van der Bos and Michael van Torenhout is our top 10. Just outside the top 10, Lars van der Haar. Then we have Ryan Camp in 12th, Pim Ronhard 13th, Andrew Strohmeyer is 14th. Cameron Mason is certainly currently in 15th. Göran Bashir is 16th. Kevin Kuhn is 17th. Thomas Mean is 18th. Then we have Filippo Fontana in 19th, and Danny van Leerop is in 20th. Worth a mention, Jacob Turner from New Zealand is currently sitting in 28th position. Bailey Gronendart 31st. Felipe Orts in 34th. Not having another good day out here at the moment, Felipe Orts.
No, I presume the reaction from the crowd there, Victor Musen must have had a problem. The oohs and ahs and then the shouts must have had a problem just off screen. He was trying to make his way back to this lead, and it looks like Van der Poel had just made contact. But once more on this section, Laurent Sweek being distanced ever so slightly.
He is indeed. So Thibaut Del Grosso, the rider on the front, has such a smooth, very subtle style. We saw him last year, as we said, he took second here in this one, and he's just taking a cut. Oh, Van der Poel goes left. That's the sand. That shows what an unforgiving master it can be, even to the likes of the world champion.
You saw as soon as he came out of that rut, the front wheel was just grabbed by that loose, deep sand. I think that's where he was so close to the wheel of Thibaut Del Grosso and Toonarts trying to ride this one. He rides up over here. Very, very impressive from the European champion. He obviously won that title in the sand of Middelkerke.
And this is we see in Koksijde that it is one rider has an issue on one section and gets a gap. Then someone else has one on the next section, and everyone comes back together. This race, it can, and we've seen it in the past, it is, as cyclocross always is, the minutest of details. And hopefully we get a day where we perhaps go further into this race with a bit of a group.
There's such an advantage from leading in this situation, because if you make a mistake and the rider is behind you, as you see, there's one line through this section and you hold everybody else up. And the other thing to think about is the concertina effect. Naturally, as riders go into these sand sections, they naturally slow down. A lot of these sand sections are small uphills, see more problems behind for Verstringer, but good momentum being carried from that group behind. But as I was saying, that concertina effect in these sand sections means that if you are behind, as we saw from Van der Poel, he was having to back off while trying to ride an uphill rut, which is a very difficult thing to do. And you saw him fall out of the rut, get caught in the deep stuff and almost come to a grinding halt. But right now we have a leading group of 4. Van der Putter will make it 5, 1 lap of racing down.
It is Van der Poel leads through from teammate Thibaut Del Grosso, Toonarts, Laurent Sweek and Niels Van der Putter, our top 5, with Vitsi Meyusen of Krielen Corendon having a great day out for him in 6th. Lars van der Haar is going to lead. Michael van Torenhout, Teun van der Bos, Emil Verstringer, Pim Ronhard and Mace Hendricks through the line just ahead of Ryan Camp, and it looked like Göran Bashir was with him. Interesting to see the way Van der Poel just kind of took his foot off the gas through the start-finish line that time.
It's the only place you can recover on this course, and so I think we're going to see a bit more of an old-school style race where they would race really hard the off-road sections and then all sit up on the start-finish straight, have a look around, have an assessment of the situation, and then really go again when they came off the start-finish straight. As I said, it's the only place that you can kind of gather yourself, lower the heart rate, get the breathing rate down ever so slightly before you go again, because the sand sections come at you so quickly on this new course.
Does indeed. Mathieu van der Poel is on the bike, adds some power, throws down the advantage. This is
already stretching out his back, shows how tough this course is, but already 2, 3, 4 seconds for the world champion.
Vitsi Meyusen currently riding in a career best in 6th position. Is this the moment that Van der Poel can try and capitalise on those mistakes of the group behind us. Tonarts and Laurent Swake just have a little momentary collide in the sand. Van der Poel just, you can see, shifting that body weight left and right. Can Swake and Arts get back up? Another small dab there from Laurent Swake. Van der Poel will hit this next June.
One small disadvantage from leading on the course here. You see the rut had kind of totally disappeared. There's a huge number of racers in this race today, and they had all been off and running that section on the first lap. And so when Van der Poel hit it second time round, he kind of had to break trail as such and make that new rut for everyone else on this second lap.
It's an ominous sight on lap 2 for Mathieu Van der Poel to be riding clear. Lars van der Haar has made it up to Vitsenhuisen within that group. Can Arts, Swake, Del Grosso and Van der Poel get back up towards the front? But for Swake and Arts here, they've got 2 teammates for company.
They have. Del Grosso's going to do absolutely nothing on the back of this one. Van der Poel won't be chasing down his teammate up ahead either. But you see, it's Van der Poel's turn to ride this dune. This was the one that Schweik rode first time round. Can anybody? Schweik's going to ride it as well and gain a huge advantage. No one else in that chasing group able to ride.
Big power from Van der Poel and Swake. Van der Poel would have seen Swake ride it on the previous lap, and Laurent Swake is trying to use that and the momentum to get back to Mathieu Van der Poel. The World Cup leader, small dab there for Laurent Swake. He's got to get quickly back on the gas here on this climb. Van der Poel just left and right. Look at the, you can see the head, the concentration of Van der Poel. Swake's got to believe here that he can get back.
Schweik absolutely flying. I mean, Van der Poel didn't do this the smoothest way. You see, he actually came out of the main rut into the deeper sand on the left-hand side and just absolute raw powered over the top of that one. Schweik, much more finesse, stayed in the main rut, probably took a lot less power to ride that section, and then he looks really, really good through the next long sand section. I think the skills of Schweik are potentially a little bit better than Van der Poel right now, but can he match the raw power of the world champ up ahead?
That is the big question. The group behind is a little bit more of a coming together from this group as Ryan Camp just rounds that corner. Van der Poel just hand-slinging himself across the barriers here. Laurent Swake. The gap is only 2 seconds from Mathieu Van der Poel. Thibaut Del Grosso in third, 7 seconds. And then Tonarts back in fourth here, 9 seconds from the front of the race, back to Tonarts. Then we have Niels van der Putte in fifth, then Vitsenhuisen and Lars van der Haar, Michael van Turenhout, Pim Ronhaar, and Mace Hendricks are our top 10. Cameron Mason still in 15th for British fans, 18th for Andrew Strohmeyer from the USA. Swake looks good today.
His technique in the sand, we call him the sand man for good reason. His technique in the sand is unbelievable, and he's just ridden back to Van der Poel. Like you said earlier in the lap, is this the moment the world champion rides away with it? But Schweik, I said on the start line, I really hope he pushes Mathieu Van der Poel today. It looks like he's going to do that.
And he's got to have that confidence. You've got to ride with swagger in this situation, because Van der Poel will look around. He would have seen that he's got a gap, and he'll look around and he'll see that Laurent Swake has managed to get back to him, and we'll see if that enables if Van der Poel sits up a little bit, if it allows Arts, Del Grosso and Van der Putte to come back in here potentially.
Ooh, Van der Poel forced off on this section. I think Del Grosso is going to ride up over this, and he's going to come back to the leaders as well, bringing Van der Putte with him.
Koksijde always spins on a knife edge, and it looks like it's going to be no different here today. The changes to the course, back to the traditional course. We had some famous races over here. One of the most famous, Paul Hedegaard, in winning the World Championships here in 1994. It has always been an iconic course, but we've gone back to the traditional course, and they've added more sand. And Mathieu van der Poel said at the beginning of this one, they just made the course even better. I think they've just made it just even more savage, haven't they? There is no rest on this course.
There really isn't. What was interesting for me, they came round to this section. Van der Poel didn't even attempt to ride it, even though it does look right to recover between the sections, not pushing on, looking in control of his effort. But I think he'll be a little bit surprised to look round and see such a big leading group after 2 laps.
Yeah, but he's so used to just looking around, isn't he, that he attacks and that's it. Game over. It's gone. You can all ride for second place. And maybe now we'll see a completely different race from him, because that's essentially what we had in Namur, wasn't it?
In Namur, he rode a very calculated race, but I felt like he had kind of gone into Namur with that game plan. He was going to leave it until kind of the last 15 minutes of racing and then really go for it. Whereas today, I honestly believe he tried to break them on that second lap and couldn't. So he's gone back into the group, almost gone to the back of the group. He has gone to the back of the group right now, which isn't ideal. So it's going to be interesting the next 20 minutes.
Cameron Mason leads Ryan Camp through. What's interesting is if we look further down the field, the fastest lap so far, lap 2, Joran Visura, 808.3, Mace Hendricks, 809.5. Niels van der Putte has the 3rd fastest time so far. But that's the average, 25.06 kilometers an hour is our average speed for our fastest lap.
And considering they're off and running a number of times this lap, or just simply hand-slinging themselves along at probably 8-10 kilometers an hour, that is an unbelievable average speed being shown by these riders.
It is indeed. Mathieu van der Poel just sitting back just a touch on the wheel here of Toon Aert. And then Laurent Sweeck is there. It's Niels van der Putte and Thibaut Del Grosso at the head of the race. These are 2 teammates of Mathieu van der Poel, so he won't chase Thibaut Del Grosso and van der Putte, or will he? Just comes straight through to the front.
Interesting. The further you are back in the group, the just simply more difficult it is to ride smoothly through the sand. You can't see the rut ahead of you. All you can see is the rider in front of you. So it is better to lead into these sand sections. And I think Van der Poel just wanted to lead before this key sand section and ride back to his teammates up ahead, which he's done pretty much before even the sand section's done.
Onto this long dune, Van der Putte just has to skip along with that right foot. It's all about just keeping forward motion in any way you can. Van der Poel off and running. He's off and running a little bit more today than others.
He is. We saw it from him yesterday, choosing to kind of dismount fairly early and run, kind of a bit more of a traditional thing to do rather than this kind of new modern age grabbing hold of metal barriers and pulling yourself along. I think it's kind of a little bit safer, but it means he does have to remount, which is very difficult in deep sand to remount on that very thin rut. But he's obviously confident doing so, is opting to do that, thinks it's faster. Michael van Turnhout is actually closing down a little bit on this leading group. He is 13 seconds back.
Indeed, there's Lars van Aert, there's Mace Hendricks going through. 5-rider leading group. So Thibaut Del Grosso leading, and Thibaut Del Grosso's laps, 8:11, 8:11 so far for the Dutch champion on the front. That shows how consistent he is. Niels van der Putte for Belgium, and Alpecin de Koning second, with Mathieu van der Poel in third. Then Toon Aert and Laurent Sweeck. Michael van Turnhout 10 seconds off the back of this group at the last count. Toon van den Bos is 7th, Lars van Aert 8th, Mace Hendricks and Vitze Meusen are our top 10. A little bit of a skip along there for Laurent Sweeck. We are on lap 3 of 7 here in Koksijde for round 6 of the UCI Cyclocross World Cup. And our leading group of 5, Thibaut Del Grosso on the front in the red, white and blue Dutch champions jersey with the white shorts. In the grey is Niels van der Putte of Alpecin de Koning. In that white and rainbow jersey is Mathieu van der Poel. In the white European champions jersey with the blue stripes and yellow stars is Toon Aert. And in that red, white and black and white checkerboard jersey of World Cup leader is Laurent Sweeck. And Ian, you can see just how tough this sand is riding today.
Is particularly loose. It's been dry the past few days in Belgium, and so it just means that that sand is very, very loose. I mean, this left-hand turn into the pits, we've more or less had that in every single version of the course that we've ever done. And some years it can get really, really deep. It's a good gauge of how kind of wet the ground is. And as you can see, it's very loose here this year. And it means that every other section of sand is also the same. It looks like Lauren Schweik just dangling off the back of the group. Potentially a tactic here, coming into this hard sand section, just giving himself a bit of space to ride into. You see, kind of closes up almost immediately to the back of Toon Arts. There's almost no point trying to hold the wheel on that transition section. So interesting being employed by Schweik there.
Yes, indeed, it's the 22-year-old Dutch champion, Thibaut Del Grosso, on the front, leading out here. Third cyclocross race of the winter. Namur was his first outing this winter, and took 14th there, 6th in Antwerp. To Michael Van Turenhout, and Van Turenhout's closing riding well today because he says himself sand is not his thing.
No, it isn't, but doing a brilliant ride right now, leading that chasing group, and looks like he's almost closing down a little bit in places to this group up ahead. But Del Grosso looks very, very good. Second here last year. It wasn't a World Cup here last year, but still second at Koksijde, no matter what race title it is very, very impressive.
Mace Hendricks was just flying through our picture in the green of Heisemat Q. Joran Vistura having a better day out here today. Schweik that calculated that risk, didn't he? He made that calculation going into that June, as you said, of laying back, but unfortunately came to a bit of a halt and it's lost him a few seconds.
Yeah, it just doesn't look like he's able to close down on these kind of transition sections, but might have just been trying to pace it a little bit and gaining a little bit of energy so he can ride beautifully over the top of that dune and straight back to the group. Just goes to show you, like 5-10 seconds can be won or lost on just simply one stretch of sand. Del Grosso is going to try and ride up over the top of this one. You see that problem that Van der Poel's having, carrying so much speed that he runs into the back of Van der Poel and has to come out of the rut. But that cost Lauren Schweik being able to ride that previous June came at an energy cost. He hit immediately the next section and was on the limit, couldn't ride up over that one.
State of play. Thibaut Del Grosso, Niels Van der Poel, Mathieu Van der Poel, Toon Arts and Laurent Schweik is our front group. Schweik just off the back here. He's got to find his way back in 6th. Michael Van Turenhout. Then we've got Toon van der Bos in 7th, Lars van der Haar 8th, Mace Hendricks 9th, and Emil Verstringer is our top 10. Oh, Toon Arts goes down in the sand. Luckily, doesn't put drive chain down in the sand.
That's a risky run, trying to do this kind of new modern technique of hand slinging along the metal barriers. You obviously haven't got two hands on the bars. You're not as well balanced on the bike as if you had both hands on the bars. And so, yeah, he kind of missed with his hand and was leaning to the left and kind of toppled over. We're going to get a replay here now. He's going for that grab, kind of comes unstuck, front wheel turns because he hasn't got two hands on the bars, and down he goes straight away.
That gives us a front three from Alpecin to Koenig as we head back round into the finishing straight. Michael Van Turenhout leading those chasers. It's Mathieu Van der Poel that's just taking Thibaut Del Grosso and Niels Van der Poel to clear. So the three teammates, two Dutchmen and a Belgian, Schweik and Arts, got to come back 6 seconds, not out. 7 seconds it rounds up to, not out of the question. And we look back to a group that's starting to show a little bit of fatigue now, that chasing group.
They are. I think that was experience of Van der Poel there, just coming to the front, looked round, saw three from the same team have made the split. That's the podium wrapped up, went straight to the front of the group and drove it really hard down the start finish straight, hoping to take away his two teammates with him. What a scoop that would be for the Alpecin de Koenig team. 1, 2, 3 at Koksijde, but Schweik is going to try and make his way back. Toon Arts looks like he's composed himself ever so slightly.
As indeed, we just saw Cameron Mason going through the finish line for British fans in 12th position for 7 Racing. As Schweik and Arts try to get back to the front. Del Grosso and Van der Poel here. They've got to be careful of their team leader riding away from them through some of these particular sand sections. Del Grosso is looking comfortable at the moment. He's just looked in the last couple of races, and it is the big difference, as we always say, with elite racing. It's consistency. It's being able to string together lap after lap, race after race for the full hour.
Nail on the head there. I think at Namur he looked very, very good for kind of 20, 25 minutes and then gradually faded ever so slightly. Yesterday looked good, not magnificent, and then today just looks a little bit step above once more, holding the wheel of Van der Poel pretty closely. Looks like Van der Poel is just beginning to stretch that lead and ride away from his two teammates. This is probably one of the hardest sections of sand that the riders have to deal with today, and Van der Poel absolutely nailing this one.
Yes, look at the power that he has through there. Thibaut Del Grosso trying to carry good speed and momentum. Does it nicely. I'd say maybe took a second back there, perhaps. Laurent Sweik carrying great speed. Kicks up plenty of sand as he goes left and right. He is leaving himself a lot of work to do today, though.
He is a great example of basically which rider's kicking up the least amount of sand is riding the smoothest and maintaining that rut the best. So Thibaut Del Grosso, hardly any sand being kicked up by that front wheel of his Canyon bike compared to Sweik there. He got a little bit squirrely. We saw the sand kicking up as that front wheel went left and right, slowing him down in the process.
Here's Tonart sitting in 5th position in that European Champions jersey. Thibaut Del Grosso and Niels van der Putte they get themselves back to Van der Poel. It looks like the moment that fatigue is starting to show. Lars van der Haar leading Mace Hendricks, the two Dutchmen together. Then Michael Van Toren out for him in terms of World Cup points going into the day. If you weren't with us earlier on, Laurent Sweik leading with 116 points to Thibaut Nace's 130. Nace not taking to the start. Van der Poel was often running this section where Del Grosso managed to carry speed and momentum over the top. Michael Van Toren out starting the day in 3rd in the World Cup with 111 points. Del Grosso's managing to ride different sections better than Van der Poel, but Van der Poel is building this advantage that's starts to become tough to close up.
I think it's that battle, Van der Poel, the raw power that he's got to get himself out of trouble. Whereas Del Grosso, as you say, riding the sand really, really well. He rode over that dune absolutely perfectly, carried great speed over the top of it, and then hits this next section, which is a little bit more about raw power because it's got that horrible climb that you see Toonarts dragging himself up at that point, which really suits the skill set of Van der Poel. Del Grosso, though, take nothing away from him, riding very, very well at this point.
He is indeed. Sweik's giving him certain sections of the course today, giving himself a lot of work to do. Lars van der Haar's having a good day out as well here.
He is. He's at a best of 2nd place at Koksijde, so likes the sand, likes the tough races and riding well already. Be interesting to see the lap time at the end of this one because Van der Poel has basically gone full gas from the line the entire way on this lap. Del Grosso falling behind Van der Putte now.
Mathieu Van der Poel, lap 3, the fastest lap of the race so far, 8:05.1. Thibaut Del Grosso, 2nd fastest lap with 8:05.9. Then Niels van der Putte, 8:06.1. Interesting, lap 3, Cameron Mason, 4th, 8:06.3 the lap time for Cameron Mason. So can the British champion infiltrate the top 10 here at the moment? It's two Dutchmen, Mathieu Van der Poel and Thibaut Del Grosso, that are leading for Alpecin de Koning. Then Niels van der Putte in the grey for Alpecin de Koning development team. Then Laurent Sweik in the for Creelin Corendon, Tonarts for the Hens, and then Lars van der Haar and Mace Hendricks, the two Dutchmen for Baloise Glowy Lines, and for Mace Hendricks for Heisermack Cube here. They are 6th and 7th. Then come Michael Van Toren out, Emil Verstringer, Tom van der Bos is our top 10. And then just outside that top 10 are Joran Visura and Cameron Mason. Pim Ronhaar in 13th. Swiss man Kevin Kuhn of Heisermack Cube is 14th. Mitzi Miusen dropping back to 15th. Ryan Camp 16th. Filippo Fontana of Italy is 17th. And Victor Van der Putte now up to 18th. Mikkel Boros of Czechia 19th. And Nathan Bominel of France is our top 20. Just starting to pick up some lapped riders.
Yeah, we do have the 80% rule in place today, but the difference between Van der Poel's speed and the slowest riders is just simply too much for the 80% rule today. It needs to be probably kind of a 60% rule enforced.
Did Swake, is he starting to edge back to Del Grosso and Van der Putte here? The gap is 12 seconds as Del Grosso is able to just ride that section, but running in towards the back of his teammate. Then he just had to dab his foot, skip along for a moment. 12 seconds, though. It's not a huge advantage.
It isn't a huge advantage right now, but the difference in kind of, style and technique right now. Look at this from Van der Poel. Rode that brilliantly around that corner, not having to grab onto the barriers at any point. But that was a great kind of show of strength there. He didn't have the technique to remain in the rut the entire way. And so instead just jumped out and just dropped a load of watts to drag himself to the top. You see the difference in technique up here.
As you saw the way he just skipped out the run, then just kept the power on through the sand. Toonarts for the Schachtens was with Lotto on the road this season. It's made a big difference to Toonarts this winter. Van der Putte, Del Grosso and Swake, if they can get on, they've got the world champion in their sights as we come round to the end of lap 4. But still very much in command is Mathieu van der Poel. And there you have it. So 8:10, 8:11, 8:05, 7:43 for Van der Poel that lap, Ian.
I said it was going to be interesting because he'd literally gone full gas from line to line and just went kind of a different speed to every other lap that we've seen. Just probably about 20 seconds faster than any other lap that we've seen. Just phenomenal.
It is 20 seconds. So Thibaut Del Grosso, 8:03 that lap for him. Swake's done a 7:58 though, so he's dipped under the 8-minute mark as Laurent Swake. But 20 seconds, if you start to get out to 30 seconds, that's starting to build a decent advantage. Mace Hendricks in 6th position. Mace is having a great day out as well.
Very, very good yesterday as well. He's enjoying these sand races. It's really good to see. Cameron Mason up into the top 10 now. Has gone up over the top of Michael Van Turnhout as well.
Good to see the British champion getting into the top 10. Pim Ronald going through there in 13. Toonarts right his way back to our trio of chasers. There's Kevin Kuhn going through with Fitzy Mayusen. And we go back to Ryan Camp. But still in command is Mathieu van der Poel. Thibaut Del Grosso, can he equal last year's position? 2nd in this race. 3rd was Michael Van Turnhout, the young Dutchman. Great technique has Thibaut Del Grosso. Just has a little cheeky glance back over the shoulder just to see where Swake is. Does look like the two teammates have just wedged Laurent Swake in between them.
They're on that section now where they're desperately trying to maintain position for this sand, but also recover from the effort of those early dunes within the lap. You really need to kind of refill the bucket of energy for these sand sections. So you think it kind of is more or less emptied by riding these sand sections. Then on the transition sections, you really need to kind of refill it as such to be able to go again. So it's kind of that real pacing strategy being shown by these riders on those transition sections.
Yeah, it's like your energy on a day like this, it's like dripping through a colander, isn't it? It's just multiple holes that you're trying to plug all the time, as you said, just trying to replenish those energy stores constantly in this one. Let's just run you through who is where as we've gone through the line. Mathieu van der Poel, the gap 23 seconds now to his teammate Thibaut Del Grosso. Then you have Laurent Swake, Niels van der Putte, Toonarts, Mace Hendricks, Joran Basura, Toon van der Bos, Lars van der Haar and Cameron Mason is our top 10. Just outside the top 10, Michael Van Turnhout in 11th, Emil Verstrugger is 12th, Tim Ronhart 13th, Fitzy Mayusen 14th, Kevin Kuhn is 15th, Ryan Camp 16th, Filippo Fontana is 17th, Victor van der Putte 18th, 19th for Mikko Boros of Czechia, and Spain's Felipe Orts is now up to 20th position.
Really nice from Van der Poel up over that dune, carrying great speed, and just began to lose his balance ever so slightly, grabbed onto the barrier, got himself going again, and then hands back on the bars to finish off that dune. And just a few seconds here and there, and that gap will be out over 30 seconds before you know it.
We'll do Mace Hendricks. I was just having another check on the notes. 6th is his best ever World Cup finish in 2022. See what he can do in this one today. Sway comes over the top here of Del Grosso. The power he puts down there as they climb up through this section of dune. Thibaut Del Grosso, the bike just dancing around underneath him. You feel with the technique of Del Grosso, when the endurance of the hour starts to click, it's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
It really is. It's really difficult to remind yourself how young he is.
We're on lap 5 of 7, and it's a familiar sight. Mathieu van der Poel leading here in Koksijde, and he first won this race in 2017. We had Sven Nys in 2015, 2016. That was the famous wind year, Ian, wasn't it, when Mathieu van der Poel just rode home from Koksijde?
Yeah, the storm hit and the race got cancelled, and he decided to ride home with a raging tailwind.
It was about 200 odd kilometres, wasn't it? It took him about an hour and a half. No, I'm joking. But yeah, Mathieu van der Poel, back-to-back wins between 2017 and 2019. It was cancelled in 2020. Elias Spit in 2021. Wout van Aert in 2022. Mathieu van der Poel in 23. And last year it was this man here, Laurent Sweik, who took the win. It was 26 seconds on that occasion ahead of Thibaut Del Grosso, with Michael Van Turenhout third at 52 seconds. But at the moment when Mathieu van der Poel goes, it is, you know, so as the race goes on, when there is that fatigue starting to creep in, it's just so hard to bring him back or even live with him.
It is. We saw even yesterday, a puncher couldn't slow him down. I mean, Schweik halved the gap down from 40 seconds into the 22nd region yesterday through a rear wheel puncher from the world champion, but it still wasn't enough to get anywhere near him, unfortunately.
It is the way that Van der Poel can control that bike when you're going through the sand, you're at max speed, and then the bike jumps a foot to the left, and it's like nothing's happening. It's like everything happens in slow motion.
He just goes with the flow, and I think one of the big things that he has in the locker is he has a few extra 100 watts to get out of trouble. Some of the other riders, if the bike skips out like that and they lose momentum, they try and pedal out a bit, but ultimately don't have the power to do so and kind of get into more trouble, potentially a crash, or the bike comes to a kind of a halt as such. But Van der Poel just stamps on the pedals. And you see on this section, he's not even trying to ride it, where it is rideable for the chasers behind. He's just not taking that risk. And just potentially the skills aren't quite there. I know seems silly to say when he's got almost a 30-second gap, but I don't think this is quite vintage Van der Poel just yet.
Which is scary, isn't it, really, for the other riders, when Van der Poel is, maybe you can tell that the technique is just not the sort of finite skills that he needs and normally possesses are just not quite there. But yeah, great to see. And moving up yesterday in terms of the general classification in the World Cup overall to 80 points. So he's also knocking on the door of taking the lead at some point in this World Cup.
Yeah, he's moved up to 7th overall already, which is just phenomenal. It looks like he's going to take more points back in terms of that overall fight. So, yeah, can he win the World Cup overall? Does he want to win the World Cup overall?
Mathieu van der Poel heading out for lap 6. Looking phenomenally strong at the front. 2 laps to go here in Koksijde. Laurent Sweik leading that group through. 27 seconds is the gap to Sweek, Del Grosso and Van der Putte. Toon Aerts trying to hold this one. He's just over the 30 seconds down. So 38 seconds for Toon Aerts. Just a little bit of rain on the lens of the camera.
There was a little bit of rain in the forecast, so that has come down. Normally in a cyclocross race, that makes things more tricky, but actually a little bit more moisture within the sand will make the sand a little bit easier. I don't think there's enough rain to really change the mud transition sections between the sands, but a small slip potentially from Sweek there, from that drizzle falling. Interesting to look at the lap time. Sweek only lost 5 seconds that lap to Van der Poel, so not hemorrhaging time like we have seen in the past at Koksijde.
The thing is, though, when you look at those lap times, and the fastest laps, Mathieu van der Poel's lap 4, 7:43.9, 14.7 seconds quicker than Laurent Sweek, and 18.6 seconds ahead of Thibaut Del Grosso. And that is ultimately, that's a fraction of a second, a half a second, a second in every single corner in June that he's taken out of his rivals.
Yeah, that's the Van der Poel attack lap, which sets him apart from the rest. It gained him that advantage, and now he's kind of settled down into a rhythmic kind of race pace situation where he knows that someone's got to do a phenomenal lap to take time out of him when he's riding his race pace, and so he can just maintain at this point, eke out 2-3 seconds here and there, 5 seconds on the last lap, and he's just kind of comfortable in the process, not taking too many risks, not going into the red too deep. That's going to cause a huge problem in one of these sand sections. See here, Sweek just literally just having to take a rest on one of these transition sections and letting Del Grosso go ever so slightly. See if Sweek can close it down in this next sand section. But Del Grosso has been very, very good on this section on previous laps.
That's a good point now for Thibaut Del Grosso to potentially give chase of his team leader. He holds out with 26 seconds is the gap from Van der Poel to Del Grosso. Laurent Sweek also with him. So it's the two Dutchmen that lead, Van der Poel and Del Grosso. Then we have a big group of Belgians in Laurent Sweek, Niels van der Putte, Toon Aerts, and then Joran Visser in 6th at 1 minute and 6. Toon van der Vos is in 7th at 1 minute and 7. Mace Hendricks is 8th at 1 minute and 7. Michael Van Torenhout is 9th at 1:11, and Cameron Mason rounds out our top 10, just ahead of Lars van der Haar, with a bit of a gap to Pim Ronhaar. Emil Stringer is up there in 13th. Kevin Kuhn in 14th. Vincent Houston, Ryan Camp, Filippo Fontana, Victor van der Putte, Mikkel Boros and Theo Thomas are our top 20 here in Koksijde.
Very impressive at the top of that remount, June. He just was able to keep inside the rut as he remounted that bike. It was only when he kind of was trying to get clipped back in and get back on the pedals that the bike was going left and right a little bit. Del Grosso going for the grab on the handrail as such. Laurent Sweek the same. Van der Putte opts to get off. He's going to lose a little bit of time where Sweek's already on the bike and able to get on the gas to carry speed and momentum down the other side. Van der Putte just loses kind of 2 or 3 bike lengths as a result of having to get back on the bike, get clipped back in and get back up to speed.
Mathieu van der Poel, his cyclocross program. This is his 3rd race back. And can he make it 3 from 3? Today is looking likely at the moment. 29 seconds is the gap. He'll get the bell when he comes around to the line. What other races that Mathieu van der Poel has coming up? He is doing the XO Trophy from Hofstade tomorrow, the Havre World Cup on the 26th of December on Boxing Day. Then we have Leeuwenhout on the 29th of December. Then Bâle on January the 1st. Mol on January the 2nd. Zonhoven on the 4th of January. Then down to Benidorm for the World Cup there. Then Maasmechelen and Koksijde just ahead of the World Championships. And we will have 5 matches between Mathieu van der Poel and Wout van Aert this winter. As we go back to that chasing group, the race for 8th place. There's Lars van der Haar just behind British champion Cameron Mason. Ron Hart just trying to handsel himself along. Swake just manages to carry some good momentum into this running turn.
Carried really, really good speed down into there, jumped off the bike, maintained that speed round the corner. Del Grosso making a bit of a move right now. Can Schweik close this one down towards the end of this lap?
Niels van der Putte, the same, also looking strong here for van der Putte. And today for Van der Poel, it's just that it was that first little, it was almost like a little testing attack just to see how everyone was feeling, because ultimately when he did go, no one's able to stay with him.
No, it was interesting that kind of first attack didn't really work, and it was when he just remained on the gas for a long period of time that he gradually rode the two teammates off the wheel. Finally rides that section. Very interesting. On the previous laps, he's just really opted to ride in there, make a nice dismount and run all the way around there, but beginning to enjoy himself, potentially able to recover a little bit on some of these transition sections a little more than previous laps, and so then can expend a little bit more energy to kind of show the crowd that he can ride that dune as well.
Yeah. Not far away from the start finish and the bell. Swake, good power this time for Laurent Swake.
Brilliant balance shown by the riders there, that kind of hover technique up out the saddle, but not fully standing, not really throwing the bike right and left up out the saddle as you normally would, just maintaining that bike in an upright position, almost like a track star out of the gate. Try and maintain that speed in the wheels as they're coming up to complete another lap, like you say. Presume these three are probably almost going to come back together now towards the end of this lap. We're going to have a huge race on our hands for second position if they all nail this final sand section.
We are indeed. Laurent Swake in the leader's jersey here in the World Cup. He starting the day with that advantage of 3 points over Thibaut Nace, who's not taking to the start today. Mathieu van der Poel gets the bell this time. 1 lap to go for the world champion. As behind, the battle for the podium is hotting up nicely. Van der Poel, flawless technique as always. He's just got to string together that sort of flawless lap we know he can do to take this one here in Koksijde today.
You can tell now that he's really settled kind of into that race pace of his, a 7:55 followed by a 7:56. So riding that kind of, for him, that comfortable, kind of error-free lap pace from him right now. Del Grosso with a 7:55, so actually 1 second faster than Van der Poel that lap. Just goes to show you, if you just watch the images, you'd say Schweik and Van der Putte beginning to fall back ever so slightly, but it was actually Del Grosso speeding up on that last lap.
Cool, calm, comfortable at the head of the race is Mathieu van der Poel. That lap, 7:56 for van der Poel. And interestingly, behind Thibaut Del Grosso doing a 7-minute 55 lap in second place with Swake van der Putte. Then Tonart sitting at 46. Joran Vissura, Tone van der Bos with Mace Hendricks just going through. Cameron Mason is up to 9th for 7 Racing. And then Michael Van Toren out, rounding out that top 10. Lars van der Haar just outside the top 10 at the moment for the Baloise Glowy Lions rider. Kevin Kuhn currently in 3rd execution of this ride today. Swake looking good here for 2nd.
Rode that perfectly and really opened up the gap. Del Grosso beginning to pay for earlier efforts. It's been swallowed up by Schweik on this final lap, and Van der Putte dragged through as well. Schweik, the Sandman, coming really good on this final lap. Del Grosso just looked to the side ever so slightly, beginning to really feel the pace in the last 10 minutes here.
It is indeed the crowd getting behind Mathieu van der Poel as he just hand slings himself on to the final sand sections of this Koksijde course. he said the changes were very much to his liking, and he really has just shown how much he loves this course today.
He certainly has. More sand, the tougher it is, the more he enjoys it. I think the riders have really enjoyed not having those mud sections out to the airfield and back again. It just looks like he's ridden that full section. I don't think we saw it there, but that is before the remount where they have been getting back on the bikes, and maybe he rode that entire dune, which would have been very, very impressive. The first rider to do so today. I really hope we get a replay of that.
Thibaut Del Grosso off and running, and it's so tough to do that big sort of sweeping U-turn in a sand section that's uphill almost.
Yeah, the technique and power required to ride that section is, off the scale. And I think Van der Poel has just ridden that one, which is really impressive. I was going to say, I think the riders have enjoyed not going on those muddy sections out to the airfield and back again, meaning they have been able to use the sand tyres, which we haven't been able to use at Koksijde for a number of years due to those deep mud sections that took them out to the airfield and back again. On the start line, he was using that Pippa Squallow from Dugast, a small edge to those file treads, and they looked absolutely perfect for the world champion here today.
Roared on by the crowd, Mathieu van der Poel in that rainbow jersey today. Tried early on, just dismounts on that run up. Just remount at the top. Just through the final sections of this course, back to the traditional course here in Koksijde. More sand. He said he was looking forward to this one. And what a day. Van der Poel has been absolutely spectacular. Yet again, he takes his 5th career win here in Koksijde. A well-deserved victory. His 100% record so far this season is intact. The Sandman cometh in 2nd place. Strong performance for Laurent Sweeck, winner last year, 2nd today. Niels van der Putte comes home for 3rd spot, and then just outside the podium is the young superstar Thibaut Del Grosso. The Dutch champion crosses the line, absolutely exhausted.
And that just goes to show how hard that Koksijde course was today. We see that final critical sand section, and not for the first time today, a small mistake in that section. Trying to grab the barriers on the right-hand side comes at a bit of a risk. Those bars getting turned in the sand and came to a grinding halt and took him out of that battle for that 2nd and 3rd position.
Tonarts comes home for 5th place, and it looks like behind there is a sprint for Mace Hendricks. Tonarts comes home in 5th place. Mace Hendricks looking to equal his best finish ever in a World Cup. That was back in 2022. As Toon van der Bos it is that comes home in 6th. Toon van der Bos in 6th. Then Joran Visura. Cameron Mason has moved up to 8th position. 8th position for Mason. 9th for Van Turnhout. Mace Hendricks dropping back a little bit in the back end of the race. He's going to come in for 9th. A good top 10 for the Heisermack Cube rider. And then Lars van der Haar just outside the top 10 there in 11th position. Looks like we've had some good battles behind. Pim Ronhart, Kevin Kuhn coming in with Emil Verstringer, and looks like Vitsi Miyusen in the background. But a big day out here in Koksijde. Pim Ronhart sees the sprint behind, just making sure he's got enough in the bag area to make sure he hangs on.
Yes, one of them. Been a brutally hard hour of racing. The last thing you need is a sprint finish. Looks like Verstringer just gets the better of Kuhn there as well.
Vitsi Miyusen, solid day out again for Vitsi.
Yeah, seems to have progressed a little bit in the last few weeks. Obviously went down to Spain, did the kind of the Alpes into Koenig setup down there, along with this man Ryan Camp, Cameron Mason as well, and it looks like Vitsi Miyusen has come off the back of it really, really well.
It does. It shows, doesn't it? You kind of, is it that situation as well? You come into the season having done everything you can, and then you think you then get a view of where everyone else is at that point, don't you? Because you have no idea how everyone else is going, and then you get that opportunity to get that big training camp in and work on those little weaknesses that are here and there.
Exactly that. Once you start the racing at the beginning of the season, it's quite hard to change too much in your training at that point. And then once you get to go away early December down to Spain or wherever you decide to go, that's your first opportunity to really work on a specific thing and get good back-to-back weeks of training in. And it looks like Mathieu went away, worked on what he needed to, and has come back very, very strong.
He has indeed. As the crowd all make their way to the podium, the day belongs to Mathieu van der Poel. As the fans have a nice Xmas, have a nice Christmas, and it is January the 1st when we head to the Duke of Sven-Nys in Bow. Always gives us an absolute thriller, doesn't it? I like the change back to the old course.
So do I. I absolutely loved the old course. And obviously when the change came about, it was during my career. Never particularly liked the new course. There were still some sections that I really, really enjoyed. I had some half-decent results on it, but it's really, really good to see it go back to the old version here today.
And it's just tougher, isn't it? You can see that. You can see it in the fatigue in these riders. The best of the best, and just how the fatigue just showing so much throughout the day.
Exactly. It's gone back to being a pure kind of sand race, which is what it was when I first did it. And I think it just, yeah, like you say, it's a sand race. It should be predominantly sand as such. I think it was just about the right balance of not being too hard. You want the riders to be able to race against each other on a good, exciting course, and just about able to do that today.
Let's have a look back at the highlights of what was an absolute thriller. So Victor van der Poel there just pulling his foot out at the start early on. Thibaut Del Grosso leading, Laurent Sweik, Tonarts, Mathieu van der Poel all getting up there. Right from the off today, Thibaut Del Grosso looked good and comfortable, as did Laurent Sweik.
Yeah, Del Grosso's skills looked very, very good today, and I think every race that he's done, he's got a little bit stronger and lasted kind of another 5 minutes as such deeper into the race. Here we saw a mistake from Van der Poel, a little bit too close to the wheel of Del Grosso ahead of him. I just saw some mistakes from him in the earlier laps as he was trying to follow other riders through. But then once he hit the front, he really made his move on that second lap.
It did. I mean, it wasn't without errors, but it's just that the fact that the speed that he's able to ride this course at, the errors don't make him as much difference to him as they do to other riders.
No, exactly. I think that second lap attack was just a kind of a brute force thing, and he was really trying to kind of force his way out of the group, out of the chasers. But Sweik used his sand skills to ride back to the wheel of Van der Poel, and I think that gave Van der Poel a little bit of a shock because we had 5 riders at the front of the race going into the third lap.
And it's not something we see very often, a group of riders coming back in the way he did. And that shot there, that this was, unfortunately for Sweik, I think maybe if Sweik had managed to stay with them at that point, when Van der Poel went, he had to avoid Tonarts here as well, that Sweik's sand skills early on, when Van der Poel went here, he was already gapped. And perhaps if he had managed to stay there, you never know what would happen, but that's all neither here nor there. But this was the point where Van der Poel made his move.
Yeah, I think that effort from Sweik to ride back to Van der Poel on that second lap really cost him energy, but also cost him that position in that group behind, and it really cost him that when Van der Poel went, like you say, he was caught up behind the mistake of Tonarts, but just was out of position, eventually worked his way through. Once Van der Poel was clear, actually a little bit like Namur, once he went clear on the final lap at Namur, there was less and less mistakes from him, and I think that's what we saw today. Once he was fully alone, fully focused, there was actually less mistakes from the world champion.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When Van der Poel's at the head of within a group, the errors creep in because he's not quite going fast enough.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He also can't see the rut ahead of him. He can't carry the speed through where he thinks he should be going a little bit faster to get him out of trouble as such. But we saw Schweik doing a really good job in that chasing group. But it was Del Grosso with a couple of laps to go that looked the strongest within the group. Looked like he was going to ride away to that second place at one point.
He was really stretching his back out all day, all race long, wasn't he? This is a real heavy race on your back.
It really is. It's really, really tough on the body, on that lower back, those muscles at the top of the glutes that kind of force a lot of power through the pedals. You see a great example there, that kind of hover move from Niels van der Poel to get the power out. And then we saw that final lap mistake from Del Grosso that took him out of the battle for that final podium spot.
Swake's looking good if he wants the World Cup overall, isn't he? In the way he's starting to find that consistency.
He really is, and he's obviously come across a couple of races yesterday in Antwerp and Koksijde today that really, really suit him down to the ground. He'll kind of extend that lead in the overall over almost everyone, apart from obviously Van der Poel, who's quite far behind in terms of the overall points right now. Like you say, there are some races on the rest of the World Cup calendar that won't suit Schweik.
Indeed. And you feel here, Thibaut Del Grosso, once that